So keep it clean. Okay. And we're live on YouTube to this meeting of the Open Spaces Committee on the 10th of June. And because we are a new council as yet, this is the first meeting of this committee, and the first job of this committee is to elect a chair of the committee for the year. So do I have any nominations for the chair? Lorna?
Yes, I'd like to propose Alex Dunlop.
Okay, do we have any other nominations? Looks like Alex Dunlop is the chair of the committee. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Congratulations, Alex.
Thank you. I'd like to move forward and propose to Lorna. Sorry, Lorna, that's not right. Propose Lorna. I can think of more romantic places to propose. Sorry, Lorna, about that.
Propose to Lorna. Is that
Lorna
a split?
Oh, dear, I'll go down history. Right, as a deputy chair to the committee for the year. So I'd like to propose Lorna, please.
Okay, and do we have any nominations?
Any other nominations? Sorry, it's not working very well. There we go. Okay.
Sorry, Alistair, I spoke over you.
I was just going to second it if you needed a seconder.
Okay. All right. With no other nominations, then we don't require a vote. So, Lorna Shaw, you are the deputy chair to this committee. And over to the chair for the rest of the meeting.
Thank you. Welcome, everybody, to the first meeting of this new council. We are Open Spaces, dealing with the areas around Beaconsfield and other parts of Beaconsfield and looking out for them and looking after them. First of all, we'll start with the apologies for absence. Clark?
We don't have any, got a full house.
Fantastic. That's great news. Any declarations of interest at this early time with reference to open spaces? Okay.
Andrea?
Yeah, I'd like to do my declaration for Friends of Hotspur Park, standing as chair at the minute, and Hotspur Youth Club, standing as secretary.
Thank you, Andrea.
I'm just carrying that. I'm a unitary councillor.
Thank you, Jackson.
And Khalid?
Yeah, I'm the member of Rotary Club and Beaconsfield Society.
Okay.
And I'm the owner of Basmati as well.
Okay.
Alexa, if I can ask if you could just point out when people raise their hands. I haven't got, all I've got is just 4 people. I can't see the rest on the gadget at the moment. I
realise I'll shout when things are happening.
Good, thank you. Good. So we'll move on. Thank you for that, ladies and gentlemen. We'll move on to the minutes of the last meeting. A lot of paperwork was given to you, well, documents are handed down from the town clerk. This is a meeting that was held on the 11th of February 2021 via Zoom. Obviously, different councillors were present at that meeting. I'm guessing that we would approve them as of having been read, even though the councillors weren't present, but you can read the minutes. So if I could have a raise of hands in approval of these minutes.
Great, I can see a good lot of hands, probably more than you can see. Yeah.
Thank you very much. So we'll have those minutes approved. We move on to section 6, which is the clerk's report. And this is an update on actions that have been carrying on, unless there's anything that's going to come up a bit later on. If you'd like to.
Yeah, this is, we used to have matters arising on the minutes, but in our training last week, we were advised that that was not a good thing to have. So the lady advised it would be better for me to give a clerk's report on things that had happened since the last time. Now I'm going to, I know that Alison was hoping to come and she wanted to ask a question because at the last meeting there was a lot of questions that we'd received about the Park Lane allotments, and so I wanted to just give an update about that, which was that we did try to negotiate with the owners of the Park Lane allotments. We did support the Beaconsfield Society application that they made to Buckinghamshire Council to have the site registered as a community asset, which was unfortunately unsuccessful. We made overtures about interest in buying the allotments. We also, once that was rejected, we tried further to discuss leasing those allotments. The fact is that the landowner does not want to continue to have allotments on that site. They had made that perfectly plain some, I think 14 or 16 months earlier, which is when they started their actions and giving the right notices, etc., to their tenants. So it wasn't done on a whim. There is a deliberate action by that landowner. And I'm going to give an update just because I know the sort of questions that Alison would have been asking had she been here. The questions in the minutes from the last time were that the Park Lane allotment holders felt that we were obliged under Section 23 of the Small Holdings Act to provide allotments. Now, the fact is that we do provide allotments. We provide allotments at Ivins Road, where we are also carrying on with trying to do some improvement works there, and also to increase the provision of allotments. So I think we're going to talk about allotments a bit further on about Ivins Road, but this was really just to follow up on that Park Lane stuff. We are approaching other landowners in the area to find out if there is the possibility to purchase or lease land for allotments, but we have also been reviewing our own need for allotments, and that is not as high as we thought back in February. So and also the other thing that we did in February is we have adjusted the priority. We've added a sort of weighting onto our priority list so that people who live in Beaconsfield, don't have a garden, have just lost an allotment at Park Lane, they would be a top priority on our waiting list. So they would get priority over someone, for example, who didn't live in Beaconsfield, does have a garden and hasn't lost an allotment. So we are trying to do things to help those people out who have lost allotments, but we will also continue to try and find other land. On other things, the CCTV has been replaced at Hotspur Youth Club, which I'm sure Andrea is very pleased about, and it has already, I believe, yielded some results. It's a new cloud-based system, so it is real-time. If I knew how to work the app, that would be really useful, but I haven't managed to get into it yet. But Tracy can access it 24/7 and she knows how it works. Which means that she is able to share with the police if necessary, or find out information. So that's really great. Another thing is we made a lot of adjustments to the water fountain project last time, and I'm pleased to announce that just this week, I think, was it Alex? We've received agreement from Buckinghamshire Council that they do give the landowners permission for that project to go ahead. So we will be moving ahead with our certificate of lawfulness application, and hopefully that may take another 8 weeks, but you know, at least we are moving in the right direction and we've got that to be going on with. I think Malthouse Square is on the agenda anyway later, so that's... the other one which I haven't had a chance to look into is Sandy asked about purchasing the picnic area on Wooburn Green Lane and whether the council might look into buying that. And I did say I would look into it, but I haven't been able to yet. But it's something that perhaps we could carry on with our unitary councillors, because that land is owned by Buckinghamshire Council. So I will follow up on that, Sandy, but I haven't done as yet.
Thank you, Alexa. Very interesting comments there, and I've certainly got a few questions, but I won't bring them up at the moment. Because I think we'll come on to some a bit later on.
Got her hand up, by the way, sorry.
Yeah, please, who?
Colette.
Colette.
Yes, hi. I just want to check, obviously I'm a new councillor, so I don't know how it works. And I was at the training where you were told that matters arising will no longer be on agendas. But I did ask that the rugby club lease was put on the agenda, and I know there are reasons for not putting it on because it's an ongoing issue. But is it possible, at what point in this meeting do we add things for the next meeting? Can we add that to the meeting for next time so that it's either resolved or discussed?
It's generally advisable to put it to the chair, and I work with the chair of each committees and the chair of the council, and we will move towards doing that. It's a bit of a jigsaw puzzle of keeping everything moving, and we do
No, I appreciate that.
crossover.
Yeah.
Sometimes we have crossover between committees, so actually the rugby club lease crosses over with resources because it's a legal lease and that sort of thing. And also we have a lot of crossover between community and safety and open spaces, but hopefully we try and figure it out.
So could you clarify with me what the rugby club, because I have it down as one of your resources on open spaces.
It is leased to another body.
Yeah.
So that's
so does it come under resources committee or open spaces?
It comes under resources.
So the rugby club is not open spaces any longer.
Not our open space because it's leased to another legal.
Yeah, no, I know, but I want to know if it's no longer our remit. Is that just so that I'm absolutely clear?
We are the owner and landlord there, so
yeah.
we do have an interest in it, but from a committee point of view, it's not a piece of open space that we manage. It's
okay.
Open space that the rugby club manage.
Yes, no, I appreciate that. So that is no longer up for discussion within this committee. It's up for discussion within the resources committee. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, no problem. I'll come along to that then.
Okay, thank you. Moving on, any other questions of the clerk, please? And I can't see any hands, so thank you. Moving on to site visits to BTC, Beaconsfield Town Council open spaces. Lorna, sorry, did you want to say something?
Oh, Khalid, sorry. Khalid's got his hand up. I didn't see.
Khalid. Is he on mute?
I think
as well, so I decoration.
Sorry?
Can you hear me?
yes.
Okay, now sorry, as I'm a new councillor, I don't really know that. The water fountain, is it a drinking water fountain or just a decoration water fountain?
No, it's a drinking water fountain. It was put together by the water fountain group, of which we've joined up with to try and help move it along. And it's been going on an awful long time, actually. So that's why it's so important to get this news we got this week. And the fountain is going to be based sort of out on the town green, just to the, if you're facing out of the front of the town hall, it's on the far right-hand side near Waitrose entrance, but on town council area.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So moving on to number 7, site visit to open spaces. This is something I highly recommend. I have a date or a couple of dates to propose. If we can all get along to it, fantastic. But I was thinking of possibly next Tuesday evening, maybe around 5:30. I have a vehicle that can hold 8, but I wouldn't take 8 people, but I could take perhaps 5 if you'd like to jump in with me. And then various other individuals could take cars, and if they wanted to share lifts, then they could. The offer to drive around is there. And as you have seen from the notes you got from the town clerk, there is quite a lot of open space. Now, some of it, I don't think we probably need to visit because you may know of it, but if you'd like to, then I'd be more than happy to take you there. So I'd like to agree a date if possible, but obviously we can follow that up over the next few days. Obviously, some of you will know all these sites really well, may not wish to visit, but certainly for the new councillors, I highly recommend it. It will probably take a good hour or so to get around everything, but some places would just need to have a visual look. Other places you may want to walk into to have a closer look. How initially does that sound for next Tuesday? What date is that?
Tuesday, hold on a second. Tuesday's the 15th.
Perfect, so 15th.
I most definitely like to come and join you,
Excellent.
actually, Alex. Are we able to start at 6 p.m. at all, or does it have to
Yeah,
be
6
5:30?
p.m. 6 p.m. is fine.
Yeah,
6 p.m. is
perfect. Perfect.
Yeah,
And-
I'll put me down for
Alex,
that.
I
yeah.
got Rotary meeting at 6:30. So
Okay. Well, we don't have to do it all on. I mean, obviously, if we can go around together, that'd be great. But I can split it over 2 days. I'm happy to do another day as well. I appreciate we
possible.
can't all fit at the same time.
I think Deirdre's trying to speak.
Deirdre?
Hold on, I think.
you're muted. Deirdre, you're muted. You mic.
Can you hear me now? Yes.
Yes.
Yes. I'm sorry I can't do Tuesday evening, but I
Okay.
could do another evening that week.
Perfect. Can I come back to you, Deirdre, and to those others who can't make that night? And I'll do it tomorrow, and we'll find another date that we can agree on. And then
Yes,
we'll actually split it into 2 groups. Might be a good idea anyway.
Thank you.
So Deirdre and Khalid at the moment.
Shall I email all the councillors in case people who are not on this committee would also, new councillors might like to come?
Absolutely. I think that's a great idea. Yeah. Of course, if we had the community bus, we could all pile into that.
Different
Paul could drive
committees.
it.
Different committee, not on the agenda.
Yes, indeed. Ultra vires. Okay. So we will confirm that. We'll bounce some emails around and get you all agreed and get you all off to these sites. And I don't know if anybody's had a chance to look at the open spaces themselves, but there's quite a few actually. There's quite a lot of areas to visit. And some of them will just be a drive past. Others, most of you will probably know, obviously Candlemas Pond, which is half owned by Town Council and half owned by a resident attached to it. There's a bit of a history there. And I think a couple of years ago, just for a bit of history, we were working out whether we could clean the pond through it. It got a lot of duckweed on top of it, which settled for a good year or so. And we were going to dredge it because it hadn't been dredged. It used to be a sort of small pond for cattle to feed in, to drink from. It's very old. And after researching it, what we actually found out, we had almost had something in plan to dredge this pond, but eventually we decided to leave it. And I think it was actually turned out to be the right thing to do because naturally it drains the water from the road and prevents flooding. In effect, it acts as a drain off. And by dredging it, we could have caused quite a few problems, I think, on reflection. But anyway, there's a bit of a story there, which I can happy to work on when I next see you, if you ask me. Right, they're the open spaces. We move on to the Iving Road allotments and update on current planned works and to consider a proposal to install additional water tap at the site as part of the current works. There is a single water pipe that runs to the centre of the allotment, well, actually to the top left. And because we've been able to extend the allotments, obviously that leaves the bottom end of the allotments without water. And if you've ever operated on an allotment, water is essential, and it can be quite awkward sometimes to get a supply of water down. So this is a much needed addition and will help improve the residents who preside on their allotments. Anyway, could I hand over to you, Town Clerk?
Okay, I'm just going to. Can you see anything there? That doesn't seem to be showing anything. I was trying to show you a map of the allotments.
Yes, that's about. It's just happening now. Hold on, it's just coming through.
I don't think it is.
Oh, is it not?
It's loading.
It says it's loading.
Yeah, it normally would come up straight away. So I'm going to stop that because I don't think it's working quite right. So the allotment site is quite large, and as Alex says, there is one standpipe which is right by the road where you go in, and I've sent you a document explaining that we would like to install another water tap, which is something that the allotment holders have been asking for a number of years. There are a number of reasons why we think it's a good idea, not just because they've asked, but also because we have been clearing We're trying to clear additional space at the end of the allotments, which is even further away from the standpipe. We also have the ongoing work of developing the community garden or the community allotment, which takes up 3 half plots. So that's going to involve a fair amount of disruption. And as we've looked at the site, we've been consulting with the gentleman who lives at number 22, and his garden runs on the whole side of that. And because there was no path on that part, it appears that people have been sort of piling garden rubbish and other rubbish and various things, which has all gone against the hedgerow and the fence, and the whole lot is rotted out. And he would like to put up a fence at his own cost, but we need to remove the rotted out stuff and level it and make it secure, because it's not secure. The whole thing wobbles at the moment because there's been no maintenance done on it for years. So we're going to do that and install a path, which is, if you've been to the allotments, it's the same as the path on the other side. And by basically neatly framing each side, there won't be the tendency for people to chuck their rubbish up at the end. They'll have to deal with it or manage it more sensibly, and it won't be against a homeowner's fence. So we have the clearance work for the community allotment. We have the fact we need the path, because we've also been working on splitting the plots, which was initially decided in 2017 but not fully implemented. So we've been trying to implement that again now. If I could just give you some information as well about the list. So currently I have 34 people on the waiting list for an allotment. So it's not up in the 50s where we thought it was back in February. A lot of the current holders have 2 plots. So there are about 10 that have 2 plots. And some have already agreed to give up their half and reduce to 1 plot. So we are trying to be as nice about it as we can, and take things as gradually as we can. So there are potentially 10 plots that can be created there, because a lot of the problem with these allotments is that it's quite hard work. I don't know if anyone's had an allotment, but it's really hard work. And also with the lack of water at one end, it's really, really hard work. And so we have quite a turnover. Although we've got some people who've been there for years and years, we have quite a turnover of people who come, they think it's going to be easy, they start and they give up within the year because it's not easy. So we do get quite a turnover. We've also had some people approach us and say, actually, I don't even want a half a plot, I'd only like a quarter. So we'll negotiate that on a case-by-case basis if people would like to do that. But currently we have another 2 plots which have been vacated. There are a couple, I believe, which are going to be vacated, and we're creating 3 new ones, which, as part of this work with the path, that will all be rotivated and the trees, stumps sort of ground out of it and all of that sort of stuff. So the chances are that have the potential to create 15 plots against a waiting list of 34, but the waiting list does always keep coming. But that's something that we will need to take into consideration, especially if we do find a piece of land which may be available for lease for other holdings. I think Colette's raised her hand.
Colette.
Yeah, how much are these people paying for the allotments?
£25 per annum.
Per annum?
Yeah.
And we're actually clearing all the rubbish that people put against a fence and putting paths in. And so have we worked out how much it costs us to actually keep this allotment going?
The purpose of the Allotments and Small Holdings Act is not a money.
No, I know it's not to make money. I'm not suggesting for a second, because if it were to make money, it would cost them 15 grand a year. So it's not to make money, clearly. I'm not saying that, it's for community use. But it's not for community abuse either. No. And if you're saying all of this, you know, the whole fence along the whole side is rotten due to people just dumping stuff because they can't be bothered to carry it out, then you've got to ask the question.
To be honest, if I can
About
step
the
in,
£25, yeah.
Yeah, that's right, Colette, and I understand completely your concerns. So when I first got involved in Town Council 2014, the allotments were in a complete state of disrepair, and in fact, people were holding allotments for no other reason than the fact it cost them 25 quid a year, and they didn't have to do anything to it. It was almost a thought that there was a fear that the planning permission would be granted to build houses on it, which would never have happened. And they thought by holding it was preventing it. They were in a state of complete disrepair. So we started a project where we started to clear everything down, get rid of the people who were just wasting time there, and start developing the allotments. And the improvement was remarkable. You know, everybody engaged with it. We got them cleared down and people started using them properly. Moving on from that, we then just realized that the plots, they are huge plots, and I'll show you. If you've not been down, I'll take you down there. And this ongoing work is really just something that's carrying on from that previous state of disregard where the allotments hadn't been looked after properly for about 10, 15 years, if not more. I mean, there were fully grown trees in some of them, you know, it was ridiculous. So I get your point completely, and there has to be an onus of care to the allotments from the people who are on them. And that's something that we are putting into the contract, which I think we rewrote in 2018, didn't we, Alexa, or 2019?
Yeah, I think we're reviewing it again now.
And we're reviewing it again, and obviously you'll see those, you'll be a part of that. And we also, what we really want to do is get a sort of like a committee of allotment holders together who could then come and join us once every 6 months in the town hall and give us an update. And in effect, they'll be sort of almost self-policing, if that makes sense. You might have heard of allotment wars. There are people who are very precious about their allotments, but I think by having an onus responsibility back into the allotment holders, a lot more things will hopefully be brought to our attention sooner so that we're able to act on them. We do now visit them as a matter of priority every 6 months, I believe, or every quarter we go and visit the allotments just to make sure things are as they should be. If we don't see any activity after 6 months or 3 months, we'll bring it to the attention of the allotment holder, because it's important. You know, it is hard work, as Alexa said. To run an allotment is you know, you've got to be on it pretty much every weekend this time of year. I know that, just looking at my small garden, which is grown over with weeds and everything, so I've got to get in there and clean them out. But certainly, no, we do feel there is onus on the allotment holders to look after them, and that's why we have rewritten this contract to visiting it again and having some age of responsibility on it. Alexa.
And just to go back to Colette's point, we haven't spent a huge amount of money down there, and that's part of the reason we should have been maintaining that hedgerow all along as a regular thing, and it probably would have survived a bit better, but it hasn't. So I realised that the item that I'm presenting you with about the water is additional to our costs at the allotment, but as we're going to try and extend it down to the other end, and we're trying to increase the plots, what happens is that all the allotment holders have to queue for the one standpipe. So when they all go there on a Saturday, all of the allotment holders are queuing for water. By adding another standpipe, it really does make quite a difference and make things a bit better.
On a technical question, has the volume of water been measured? I mean, if we're putting another pipe in there, if you've got two people, one either side, there's only a certain volume, it's still going to come out slow.
It will. It's main. It is a water main. It will come off the same water main as a T-junction. So arguably, you know, if someone turns the first tap on, it's like them putting the kitchen tap on when you're in the shower. It's all going to go wrong. But
okay,
it is what it is. It would give better provision than we have, and I have no reason to believe that the pressure is poor there.
Okay. Thank you. So any other questions on the Ivan Road allotments at this point? And I can't see hands. Anybody? Just
I will need you to ask.
I'm going to do that in a minute. So no other questions. So what I'd like to do is put a proposal to agree to install additional water provision at Ivans Road, £1,800 plus VAT. And this is going to carry on during the current planned works that are going ahead. Could I have a show of hands, please, for those, the proposal, for that proposal, please? And then I'll have a...
I can see 4 and I can't see Canwell.
I've got a virtual hand raise.
Oh, and Andrea. So yes, you have a majority on that, Alex.
Thank you. Good. And on the visit round, we'll have a look.
Sorry, could I just say one more thing? That actually there are some issues at the allotments. We would normally visit in June, and I have had some complaints, and because there are people who have given up their plots, and as a result they're becoming overgrown, and we're going to have to try and get down there in the next couple of weeks and have a look. But I'll do it with the contractor. Now that you've given me the resolution, I'll talk to the contractor tomorrow. And
Okay, good.
start to sort that out.
Good. Okay. Just another question, that they've been vacated, so we can now start offering to those 34 people waiting plots. Good.
But we need to offer them in a reasonable state.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And that's what always happens, is that they get into a state and then people go, and then before we can offer them to someone new, we're back in the state of clearing them. And the existing allotment holders who are really good get annoyed because the other plots are all weedy and blowing their weed seeds over their plots.
And for the Lorna.
Can we get deposits from people when they take their allotments that they can get back if it's returned in the way they find it?
£25, I think it'd be a bit hard. I think most people would probably give you 50 quid and go. It's a good point. It's a good point.
Andrea has a hand up, and so does Campbell.
Andrea.
Can I just ask, looking obviously, because I'm new into the council as well, I've had a brief look at the outline of what's coming in the future down there, and one of the concerns from the local residents is the hut. Is that not going?
It was going to be a shelter rather than a hut. It was just going to be a roof with rain chains off it and gutters. Yeah. But we're aware of residents' concerns. We're not going to put shelter there.
Perfect. Because they have had some antisocial behaviour, and they were really concerned about obviously encouraging them via a shelter.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you.
Right. Somebody's noisy.
Where that's coming from.
Okay. Thank you. And obviously, for those councillors that aren't aware, the ongoing progress with the allotments, a lot of the groundwork is carried out by an organisation called Chiltern Rangers, who employ youngsters and groups of individuals who come from all walks of life and put working groups together. And it's a really popular organisation. They work incredibly hard, and it's very good social atmosphere there. I've been down and worked with them, certainly initially when the first allotments, when I say work with them, spent about 10 minutes down there, so I can't really claim any glory for that. But they were really good organisation, and we encourage them because it's helping the communities. They have people from all walks of life, like I said, so disabilities and children from difficult upbringings, autistic children, etc. And they're all taught how to work with farming equipment, and it's just very, very positive. So that's also something we try and encourage. Thank you. Right, we'll move on to the Malthouse Square, the new playground. Any updates on that, please, Town Clerk?
The update is that we are at the position of placing contracts. It should be installed, I believe, in July. Jackson has been kindly helping us with reviewing some of the legal stuff, although we've had to then take it to someone that we employ. We're not allowed to use Jackson in that way, but he has advised us and pointed us in the right direction to get that work done. The initial pre-install meeting should have happened yesterday. but as you are all aware, Jeanette unfortunately is suffering from COVID at the moment, and so we've had to cancel that. But I do have an update that she is feeling much better, so so that's a good thing. But we've had to cancel that for the moment. But I don't think it's going to impact the installation down there. The other thing that we do need to discuss, and hopefully you will visit this on Tuesday and whenever your subsequent date is. We had some issues at Malthouse Square last year where we had a traveller incursion, and subsequent to their removal or eviction, we installed a bund, and the idea was that this would was also, it had a load of topsoil on it, which had wildflower seeds and various things. Nothing has happened. It's a lump of mud, and the basis of it was formed with hardcore with this topsoil on top. It's under the trees. It doesn't get any light. It's not. Basically, it was something we did as an emergency measure, thinking this will all turn out lovely. And it hasn't turned out lovely. Now, the kids love it because what they do is they take their bikes and they scramble over it, but they really don't like the hardcore of rocks and bricks in the middle. So they don't like the punctures, so they've been digging out the rocks and bricks, which they then chuck at the side, which John Bull or residents pick up on a daily basis and get rid of them. So whilst we have made the site secure, in some respects, we have caused also a problem for the residents there, which we need to fix. And I can see Jackson has his hand up.
Jackson.
Chairman, if I can speak. I wonder whether it's, because as someone who uses that playground quite a lot, I wonder whether it's appropriate to have something more permanent as opposed to sort of in terms of a short fencing, because I know that a lot of parents and dog walkers bring their family across there, and they're concerned sometimes the children run onto the main road. So I wonder to stop, incursions onto that piece of land, whether it's possible to put some sort of fencing basically there. Short fencing.
Absolutely. That was like a form of picket fence, perhaps, something that could be quite attractive. I mean, yeah, the problem with wood is it does corrode, and this is one of the issues we've had over a period of 10 years with posts around Beaconsfield. But with the modern materials that we're using, for example, like the new benches, something like a resin-based wood lookalike picket fence could be quite attractive. Certainly that's an idea. Is there any chance, Clark, that we could go back to the contractors who put those bunds in, because surely they were responsible for the wild growth on it, which never happened? I mean, there had to be some sort of maintenance program for grass to grow.
They did what we asked, which was effectively done in an emergency situation, and the wildflowers were a bit of an afterthought. So it didn't work out the way that we thought it was going to. I don't think it's really the contractor's fault. They did what they were asked to do, and it was a kind of, oh, how can we make this look pretty? And like we wanted it there in the first place. But I think, well, visit it next week, have a look. I could arrange for some of the residents group there to be there, hopefully when you visit, and discuss with them. Because obviously anything that you do put in does need to be secure. So the access to the side, to the left-hand side closer to the guide hut, has now got lockable, droppable bollards. So, but for the rest of it, you could just do bollards, but that wouldn't need to be droppable. But that doesn't achieve what Jackson's talking about making a secure area. But we do have a secure area in the under sevens, so that's fenced, and I think the over sevens play park is fenced, or maybe not. We've also had a lot of antisocial behaviour down there, and those fence posts were being kicked out on a regular basis because they were in wood, which has obviously rotted out. But I think if you go and have a look, but have some ideas that, like the fencing, like the bollards, and perhaps we can meet some residents and see what they would think is an appropriate idea.
Okay.
Hello. Yes, I'm just on Zoom.
I think that's is that Andrea?
No, that's Deirdre. I've just muted.
Sorry, Andrew. Thank you. Right. Okay. So we've got quite a few ideas coming through, and I think we should work on that. So let's go and visit next week and see if we can get any more inspiration. Is there anything we can do in the short term, Town Clerk, to sort of make good what's there?
We just keep taking the bricks away.
Right. Okay.
So John Bull probably goes down there every day and takes a bag of bricks.
It doesn't seem to have got any worse since I drive past there quite a lot, and it's just got this sort of side of the bund which has been taken apart. But
I think the other thing is that depending on which way they go on their bikes, if they're going the wrong way, they'll go straight out onto the road.
Yeah, of course.
Which is not good.
It's not worth putting any orange fencing around it, unattractive as it is, to stop them.
I did try that.
Okay.
That was rejected.
Well, by council?
It didn't happen.
Okay. Right. Okay.
I did try, but it was it became too difficult somehow.
Okay, let's visit it next week, councillors, and we'll try and move on that. And would it be possible to communicate through email on that, Town Clerk, to make sure I've got my the system correct, so that we can move quite quickly with a couple of proposals? So maybe get some quotes in.
Okay, well, if we go there on Tuesday and start kicking around some ideas, I'll get some quotes out, get some quotes asked for afterwards.
Okay, excellent. Right, so we look forward to the new park, which is going to be great, the playground. Lorna, you have a question.
Sorry, I might have missed this. Alexa, what's the install date?
I think it's in July. Got the I haven't got an exact date because we haven't. The pre-install meeting was supposed to be Wednesday this week, and we had to cancel because that was Jeanette was taking that meeting.
How much is costing now?
It's imminent, isn't it? It should be installed.
It should be installed in July.
There's a lot of background.
There's a lot of noise somewhere.
A lot of background noise. Who is that?
I think it's Khalid, who's also trying to ask a question. So,
sorry,
Lorna, I think it will be installed in July, but I haven't got the exact date. And Khalid, I'm not sure. I think was asking the amount, which I don't believe I have.
How much is costing us?
It was around. I haven't got the exact figure. I think it's around 89,000. Jackson, can you remember what the figure was? Otherwise, I'll send it.
It's thereabouts. 89,000. 80 to 90, thereabouts.
80 to 90, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, moving on from the Malthouse Square, we move on to Woburn Green Lane Sports Field. I know the Town Clerk has been involved with that, and that is one of the sites that we'll visit. This is where it's based down in Hotspur. It's called Woburn Green Sports Field. We have quite a few football pitches there, which are marked out. There's a very small changing room where teams can go and get changed. Obviously, with COVID, everything's been a bit restricted for access to that. But it's a field with a great deal of potential. It has to be said, it is being used at the moment for training for the Beaconsfield Football Club and for teams that meet up through the weekend to play their matches. So we've got an update on pest control and some pitch improvement.
Okay, we have had a lot of rabbit problems, which are being culled at the moment. Don't ask questions, just it is all done properly with the necessary risk assessments and everything in place. So it is absolutely essential that we do that, because the rabbits do dig big holes, and if we're putting out pitches for people to play football on, we don't want people to break an ankle in a rabbit scrape. So it's a kind of constant fight down there. We have managed to get rid of the Gliss, who are protected, who had invaded the 2 changing rooms. That was a bit of a palaver, but that is under control. We should have next week, because the teams are playing again, but we're at the end of the season, so they're desperately trying to get in extra matches and that sort of thing. We have Tracy, our new assistant clerk, has been managing that and trying to deal with all the teams. We have Beaconsfield FC use the whole ground apparently on a Saturday, I think, for training, which we weren't quite aware of, because we have got other community clubs who have been requesting a pitch to play on, and these are the more jumpers for goalpost community football teams that perhaps we should be allowing for. So I think we're going to have to do some negotiation around when training times are and when matches can be played, because it does seem a shame. We've got 3 full-size pitches and a 3/4 pitch, and we've got teams who are desperate for pitches to play on. There hadn't been any pitch improvement done before a couple of years ago, so we have had a pitch improvement process going on. Oh, we lost our chair. Hold on, he's coming back in. Right, and the quality of the ground is improving, which it would do. So we should be doing some seeding over the next few weeks, but with teams wanting to get these additional games in, we may have to juggle that around a fair amount. So we are also going to have to look at the actual goals, which are not up to standard. You wouldn't want to run into them, but they are cemented in, and they're not very good. They're kind of bent, and they're not really in the right places. I've had a survey done of the ground, and we do have a slight runoff at one point, which kind of fixed where the pitches could be. But if we look at the whole lot and actually think this in this off season now about replacing those goalposts, what would be a really good thing to do would be to put in 2 sets of sockets or a 3rd socket, so that you can actually move the goal each season, so that you don't have the same wear on the same bits of the pitch. And this would be a standard thing to do, but we need to make sure that we can fit it onto the ground. But the standard is coming up. We've got more teams that want to play there. By next year, I might even be able to put the fees up if the ground's better. I think Andrea's got her hand up.
I would like to say I have been there for many years. I've been to A&E because my son did go down a rabbit hole whilst playing. So yeah, that's really good to go with the improvement there. And generally, the goalposts have been up there forever, so it needs something better to go there. And during training, they're not actually meant to use the goalposts. They're meant to leave that area completely to get it that time to recover itself after a game.
Absolutely. And if they were the ones in the sockets, we could remove them. We could remove them during the off season or when they're not in use, and then people theoretically aren't going to fire at the goals. Colette has her hand up.
Colette.
Yeah, do we apply for grants from Sport England and all of the different sporting associations? Is that in hand already?
Well,
at the time when I first got Bucks and Bucks, that's why I'm doing pitch improvement, because at the time we started, we would not have been eligible for any Sport England funding. But hopefully we didn't. I tried to get Bucks and Bucks down last year to do their next report, but they weren't able to. It was very complicated during COVID. But hopefully they will come sometime during the off season now and do another report and show the improvement and show that we're on an upward trajectory, and it's that upward trajectory that actually makes us eligible for funding. So in theory, if it could be match funded, there would be up to maybe 100,000 of Sport England funding that would be available.
And that's something, who does that actually, Alexa?
Who does what?
Who actually applies for the funding? Who actually manages that? Is that something that Jeanette would normally do?
No, that would come through me as
It's
a
you,
result
is
of
it?
what
Okay.
you decide as we
Sure.
go forward. But I'm just trying to help you towards keep improving those pitches, and we will, maybe by next year, the year after, we will become eligible.
Good. Okay.
It's a great, to fellow councillors, it's a great open space, and having spoken with the town clerk and previous open spaces councillors, there's a huge scope, as Colette says. If we can get funding, it'd be a great area. We could have a really nice area. We could have a fantastic building which could be used for other things as well. There's just a great opportunity. And moving from that, if you're aware of the picnic site that Sandy brought up earlier with his inquiries, a bit further down the left-hand side is a parking area which has been blocked off for many years now because of traveller incursion. It is actually a very big space. And on Tuesday, we'll drive down there and just have a look at it, because it may be something that we can purchase through Unitary at a council purchase price that could be then used for parking, and maybe even installing something for the younger generation. Anyway, there's lots of opportunity there, lots of potential. Thank you. Any other questions on the Woburn Green Lane sports field? No, I can't see a show of hands, so that's good. Okay, now the next part of the agenda. Always great fun to put together a party, but this is number 11. Welcome back to the High Street event. And as you read by the article that the clerk shared with us, as part of the reopening project, Buckinghamshire Council is encouraging local towns to animate their high streets. Street entertainers are a great way to improve the vibrancy of your town centre. I think this event, which I would really like to put together with an agreement of council, we have a potential to apply for £500, which is a town funding offered by Unitary, by the council, to help support us, with, I believe, the option for us to double that, I think, hopefully. So what we would think is probably on the town hall. We have provisionally thought of a date of the 22nd of July. So it's coming up quite quick. I think it's worthy of putting together a working party towards this, so we can meet outside of open space in a working group. I'd love to encourage some residents as well to join with this. For example, I've done a little bit of research because I do like to hold a party, but we have, for example, I was up at the market the other day, and I spoke to Helen, who runs, if you've been to Beaconsfield Town Market in the Old Town, there's a lady who runs a flower stall there called Kerry. And Kerry, I mentioned it to her, and she said that they can downsize their gazebos, and she would be more than happy to put a big row of flowers out there for purchase if people want to. But there's something nice about having pretty flowers. It's about keeping things positive, obviously. We could have a couple of classic cars. I think there's a local garage I'm aware of who might want to bring a couple of cars down and just put them on show. Cars, people like old cars. I think essentially bar, very important, maybe Pimm's if the weather's showing up, or something to rehydrate members of the public. And then, of course, a bit of music. If any of you are aware that the last Switch On event we held, we had Kerry in the last two, 2019 and 2020. 2020 was a virtual Switch On. If any was present, there was an artist called Kerry who runs her own music company. And actually, I just happened to speak to her today, and she is available and has penciled in. But this is all to be put forward. These are just a few ideas for you all to think about. We'll put them forward, have a working party group, and we'll put something together. Pretty much the gazebos, we do have some town council gazebos. We have access to a couple of other ones, so we can set this all up so that it works. And I think it'd be a really good opportunity to welcome back. We need to think of a name for it. Initially, sort of welcome back Beaconsfield, which is a bit of a mouthful, but if you can think of anything that might make it a bit softer. Colette, have you got your hand up? Sorry, you're on mute.
Yeah, I'm just thinking that I'm happy to be part of the working group. I love a party too, and I certainly know most of the bars and restaurants in Beaconsfield very well, so no problem whatsoever. And what about Big Up Beaconsfield?
Big Up.
Well, you know, we're
yeah,
trying
put it
to
out
appeal
there.
to, we want to put it for the younger. We've got lots of 14 to 18-year-olds in Beaconsfield who feel that they have nothing for them. Maybe we need to start appealing to them also.
Absolutely, absolutely. Big up Beaconsfield. Right.
Obviously, everybody else, please shout me down with your ideas.
Can we put a show of hands for the working group for now, or shall I just put something up? Colette's there. I'd like to be there. Anybody else? Andrea, good.
Andrea.
I'd like to be there, definitely.
Canwell.
Khaled,
Alex.
fantastic. And as I said, I'm sure there's a few residents who might like to join. I know a few people are very active, and we could ask and encourage them. So moving on from that, I'd like to put together, time is short. We've only got a month and a bit. So let's put a date in the diary as well. In fact, let me contact you with a date, or the clerk will, and we'll put together the working group date. And it could be, we'll do an early evening, and it won't take long. We'll just get something to process and get it out there so that members of the public know what's going to happen. And it is for Beaconsfield. This is something for Beaconsfield, and to encourage people back into the town, or to you know, get it all up there, which is great. Lorna.
So I put my name down too. The reason why I didn't volunteer initially is because I'm probably not going to be around that day. It's the school holidays have started. So I'm possibly not going to be around, so won't be able to help you, but I can help you planning beforehand.
It's more for the ideas, Lorna, actually, to be honest, at the moment. So that'd be great if you can be there.
Okay, the date was really suggested in the discussions with Buckinghamshire Council, because they, the Buckinghamshire Culture, I think, are planning a sort of county-wide open weekend, but they don't seem to have a lot of ideas around it that I know about. So I did give you a link about the things that are going, but it could be linked to that that event, which would give you some publicity of it. But it's really a fete on the town green to say, you know, welcome back, everyone.
Fantastic. I just so that I don't forget, I've been in touch with the Beaconsfield Country Fair, which is the event that's held on the last bank holiday in August, which involves a stretcher race, and they have a few performance, big man on stilts and things like that, which might be an idea as well, but we'll bring it to the working party. But any thoughts like that, always nice to have an entertainer, because I'm sure that and then we just got to get it out there so everybody knows. Good, fantastic.
You do need a vote on
so thank you.
Something.
First of all, could I propose that we have this event, and it's held on the 22nd of July? Would you like to see that? So a show of hands, and open to any comments.
Yeah.
This is for the event to be held, the Welcome Back or Big Up Beaconsfield event.
Yeah, you got a majority on number one.
Thank you very much. To agree, potential match funding of £500. So we get £500 from Unitary. Town Council will match that fund. I'm happy for that.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. And then we move to number 3, to form a working group, which we've all agreed to organise events. And as it says, members do not need to be limited to this committee.
So I'll circulate that to other councillors.
Great. Okay. Very good. And we'll make it fun and sort of simple as well, so it can go together well. Great stuff. Right. We move on to the date of the next meeting, which, as I've got here, as the 16th of September. Does that still hold, Clark?
That's the new date, yeah.
And that is the new date. So I will just revert back to one question that Colette had about the rugby club, if I may. It was an open spaces area. It's a little bit complicated because of what open spaces stands for and what the plans of rugby club are, but it is in hand, and obviously we can't do anything until we come back to this committee, so no decisions will be made. But just so that you know,
it won't be this committee.
But it won't be, because of the technicalities behind using lawyers, it won't be this committee. Thank you for
chances are, Colette, it will go to resources in this cycle, and then to full council in this cycle if we can. So hopefully by next month there'll be movement on that.
Good. Sorry, I don't know if I welcomed the Mayor to our committee. Welcome, Mayor. So I think moving on from that, thank you very much for joining us. Nice to, Alison, you've got a question.
Hello, yes, I do have a couple of questions, if I may, with your permission, because I know that I'm not on this committee, and I do apologise for being late. I had a clashing meeting with Bucks Council. The two questions I have, the first one relates to the maintenance of the common land. During the past month, this really is the issue that I've had most communications on from members of the public. And I did wonder if it might be a good idea to debate setting up a working group for...
I'm going to stop you there. Do you know what? It's one thing that I had meant to put on the agenda. I meant to ask the clerk. It's exactly what I want to do. There are some very prominent members of Beaconsfield who are very keen to assist with it. And I have a few ideas as well, which I'd like to bring to it. I absolutely agree. I think there should be a working group. Amal Travare is here, clerk.
Well, it's not on the agenda, but Alison's come late and you've invited her to speak, so it's kind of fair enough. But what I'm going to say is, it sounds like you both want to talk about pieces of land which are not ours.
Oh, okay.
Which, if it's common land, there is some common land that we maintain, but we typically don't own. So the common land, I think on the open spaces list that I gave you, I think I've probably tried to describe whether things were common land or not.
Yes, it was boundaried, yeah.
But I think the pieces that Alison is talking about are in the Old Town, and they are either owned by Hall Barn or they are owned by Buckinghamshire Council. They're not owned by Beaconsfield Town Council. So you can have a working group to say whatever you like, but you have no authority over any of that land.
They're owned by Holborn.
Well, that's the problem. They might be, they might not be.
Okay, so that's something that perhaps we can investigate. Alison.
Yeah, I do think it does need to be investigated, because even if the land is owned by Hall Barn, it's possible that we may be able to establish a committee, a common land committee, or a group of conservators, as they have in Henley, I believe, to manage the common land on a collaborative basis. Yes, it would have to be with the consent and permission and involvement of Hall Barn, but I think it's worth investigating.
Can I just ask, are you talking about the pavement condition down?
I've had a number of complaints, actually.
No, just about that particular area, because I do know, actually, I have a feeling that is actually finally, after about 10 years, going to be sorted. But I can't clarify that yet, so I'll investigate that and find out for you, for us. Sorry, one moment, sorry, the Mayor had a question. You're on mute.
Sorry, I just wanted to ask Alison, what specific issues are there that you are interested in? Because over sort of 20 odd years that I've been involved with the Old Town, there's sort of quite a lot that one gets to know about common land, and also what the sort of the obstacles are in terms of some of the frustrations that we obviously feel from time to time, whether they be to do with parking or maintenance. And in fact, the issues to do with exchanging common land for public highway are fairly complex, as I'm sure you know. So I'm just interested to know what things you're specifically interested in.
Well, the problems that residents have come to me to complain about recently have been litter collection, maintenance of grassed areas, tree lopping, removal of fallen branches, weeds in the pavements and in other areas, sweeping the pavements, slippery pavements, poorly maintained pavements. A number of maintenance issues is mainly what I had in mind.
Councillor Pike.
Yeah, I mean, the issue here goes back to the fact that about 3 years ago, South Bucks District Council, who had a maintenance responsibility for those areas in the Old Town that were effectively common land owned by Hall Barn. And without any warning, South Bucks basically decided they weren't going to do it anymore. And since that time, nobody's picked up the responsibility. And I think that there is a debate to be had that probably will involve the unitary as well as Hall Barn, because at the end of the day, there has to be some responsibility for these activities. And at the moment, nobody's picking it up.
That's right. I mean, I do see this as probably at least a three-party debate, really, because you're right, you know, these things just aren't being attended to.
Town Clerk.
You could invite representatives from both to come to a town council meeting.
Oh, that would be a good idea. Yeah.
But I think that forming a working group to try and manage things that you don't have ownership or responsibility for is doomed to failure.
Okay. But my concern, forming a working group with reference to the cleaning of the town, because obviously that's something that we still have to approach unitary to find out, because there's a new contract being offered, if I'm correct, because Biffa are no longer moving forward on that. So we're going to...
Tracy has managed to establish a relationship with Adrian, I think he is, who is covering for Yasmin, who used to have responsibility. The Yasmin that we had has not been properly replaced. However, Adrian is covering both, I think, Amersham and our area. So it was him she contacted with regard to the tyres in the Alton Road car park and arranged to have those picked up on Monday, and she kept in contact with him to make sure that that was all happening. However, what we're trying to get out of him at the moment is a full schedule of what Bucks are actually supposed to do for us. And he hasn't been forthcoming with that yet. I've heard today that has been referred to his senior management, because we need, whilst we run around trying to fix a problem which is not ours, you need to remember that, you know, people are paying council tax to Bucks Council to do certain things. And if we start at a town council level interfering to try and pick up those things, we will have to increase our precept to pay for them, which means people will be charged twice.
Lorna. I'm trying to mime. I'm miming.
Right. We agreed to hire somebody to keep the town tidy. I know we've had a COVID issue and things being maybe put in the back burner, but what are the plans? Is that role going to be re-advertised?
It will have to be re-advertised, but I believe that it actually needs some proper definition first, and I will probably come back to you for that. It needs to fit in. It was a bit of a rushed decision, and it needs to fit in with the needs of the council, which appear to have changed a fair amount over the last year, and I have a lot of maintenance issues. I've asked Tracy to put together costs for me on what we are paying in maintenance on various things, because I don't think we're working in the most efficient way to keep things tidy, to keep our maintenance issues sorted. I think we need to think again about it.
Okay.
I will come back to you through resources on that as well.
Okay. And I think,
can I say something?
I would like to.
He's got his hand up.
Yes, Khalid, sorry.
Alison, business, nearly 18 years. 18 years, Aylesbury and side. Every month, at least once, sometimes. So complain from Aylesbury, I believe. You probably can see that Aylesbury and side, the weeds we pick up, we encourage the neighbors plus the businesses to come forward and clean their footpaths as well.
Exactly. There has to be ownership for the businesses. There has to be ownership for what's, they want to encourage customers. And I'm sure, Khalid, you must have had experience where if the front of your pavement is covered in rubbish, people aren't going to walk into a restaurant. So I think there has to be ownership. And these are things that we've been working on. And I know that the Beaconsfield Society has sent a letter around to a lot of businesses asking them to look at what's outside the front of their property. And I think that's a very good idea. I think ideas like that should be moved going forward. I am concerned that if we need to tackle Unitary decision or council's decision onto where they're going to go with keeping Beaconsfield tidy. It may be a service that has to be devolved back to us, in which case we would have to set up something to offer as maintenance for keeping the town clean. It's always been a bugbear, and it's something that's dear to my heart that I want to get resolved. But there may have to be a short gap where we do have to sort it ourselves until something gets set in concrete by council, by the Unitary Council. Certainly, Alison, I'm sure you probably have no contacts up there, or will do eventually, and be able to find out for us and report back.
Yeah, I hope I will.
Okay, I've got to be a bit careful because we're slightly off kilter on the agenda. As you remember at the last meeting, anything that's not on the agenda we can't actually talk about. So it's great that you came here. I'm going to ask if there's any other questions. I think that's just about it. We finished the agenda for now. So I look forward to catching up with you all very soon. I look forward to showing you around Beaconsfield. As I said, we go for Tuesday evening. As many of you as we can turn up. We'll send the email out and just to get some numbers. And as I said, we'll do 2 visits or even 3 if necessary. But I'm determined to get you to those places. It's really good when you get a visual on something, you can see where the potential lies and what we can do about it. So I will